So as I promised last time, I'm not going to talk as much today, because it's part of our opportunity for you guys to show what you learned about our schools. So again, I'm sure we'll have some people trickle in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. This is our official meeting number 2. So once again, just quickly, half district, half community relationship here. We're building facilities and resources. It's an evaluation. Community is going to lead this process. We've got a tremendous amount of district resources that help us along the way. And we're going to together come out of this with a great mission forward and a great understanding of where we are, where we're going to go. And build together kind of a long-term commitment to our schools. Getting started, I shared this last time. We've got some new members. Once again, it's just the first thing that I'd like to say is thank you for your time. Thank you for your investment. Thank you for your neighbors' investment. It's a great community effort. It's going to take all of our time. It's going to take all of our resources, but that's why we're here. We're here to drive a great plan moving forward. Every view that you and every opinion that you have, please share it freely. We're not going to shut down any line of conversation, any point of discussion. I didn't invite people to be part of the group because I wanted a bunch of yes people. I wanted a bunch of varied opinions. I wanted a lot of different experiences. I wanted a lot of different perspectives. I wanted you to bring both your opinions and those of your neighbors, those of your family. And so thank you for that. Last point, the best ideas are the ones that are shared. So we did this slowly last time. We're going to try to do this more quickly this time. If you were with us for meeting number 1, just go ahead and do a very, very brief introduction. Otherwise, kind of the background of this is who are you, why are you here, and tell me what your kind of goal out of our community sports meeting. So again, I'm Ryan. I'm here because I have 3 kids and because I live in the district. I hope that I can guide the process. I hope to keep myself out of the decision-making process to a certain degree, because community means that we're going to have a whole bunch of team members. I know that when I'm leading my team and I say we're going to go this direction, I expect them to follow. But as a community group, you're going to determine the direction. And so I'm going to try to keep you corralled, but that's about all I want to do. Okay?
I'm Michael Corner. I'm a parent first, and I also am on the school board. Why am I involved? Again, because I'm a parent and because I'm on the school board. But more importantly, wearing my school board hat for a moment, it's very important to me to actively listen to all of you. As I have to deliberate and ultimately be part of the decision-making process with my 4 colleagues on the board, I have to make my own individual decisions about what's best for the West Valley School District. And the more I can take in and the more I can listen and the more I can be part of the discussion, I think the better the decision actually ultimately will be for us. So really excited about this, and that sort of ties in with my personal goal of the committee's work is that I firmly believe that on the issue of our facilities in particular, we as a district are better served if our plan for our facilities is driven and comes from the community members themselves, and this is a major part of that. So on behalf of myself and the school board, thank you all for your time and participation tonight.
Jerry Prescott. I'm a longtime West Valley educator, and I have 3 grandchildren in the district, 2 of which are classes within the district. And I think Michael stated the personal goal as well as I could.
I'm Michael Struther. I'm from the East Valley School District. I was the maintenance director out there for 15 years, and I retired after 30 years in the district. I now live in the West Valley School District. I've been here about 8 years. And I've had some concerns. Out at East Valley, we had great success in passing bonds, usually by 67 to 70% passage rate, along with levies. And the few bonds that I've been here, I was just kind of concerned that they didn't pass because it's a great district out here. You know, I know it is. I know a lot of the people who work. You have one of the most respected maintenance directors in the state. I've worked with Tim for a number of years and been to a number of different conferences with him. So I just thought maybe I could bring something. I sat on a lot of bond committees, maintenance committees, budget committees, that we could, you know, get this turned around and maybe pass a bond. We were very successful out there, and I think I can bring some resources. I could probably talk to the superintendent to come in and give us a few pointers. So that's why I'm here. And I've known Ryan for many, many years, and he twisted my arm.
Okay, my name's Pat McGrell. I'm the outsider, grumpy old man of the group. I am not from West Valley. My wife was from West Valley, along with my two brothers-in-law. I have no kids, no grandkids, or anybody in it. I'm a retired person on a fixed income, and I'm concerned with how the money is being spent and how and when we need to spend it. So I'm new at this. My father-in-law was on the school board for 25 years until he passed away in 1998. His name is on some of the placards in some of his older schools. So I'm just kind of wanting to find out how it all works and see if there's anything that I can do to help. My background is electrical. I'm retired Seattle City Light. I hold 2 state licenses, marine electrician and tournament high voltage substation electrician. I'm a certified relay tech, and I also gave up my CFC certification and refrigeration license when I retired. So I used to be part of the WSU Hands-On Relay School Steering Committee until I retired from the city, which was a school that we trained people for utility work in relaying and communications over at WSU every year. So that's pretty much my background.
Hi everybody, Chris Corey, parents in the school district, and I'm looking forward to the idea of shaping the future plan. I know I've got kids that are in school newly and yet to be in school, so obviously this will affect me, and I want to make sure we continue to have great schools out here.
I am April Heiser. I'm the transportation director for the district. Brian asked me to be involved in the committee, and so my personal goals are just to be able to assist in the process of all the tasks that this committee is going through.
I compliments again, Ryan. Did a great job organizing the meeting, and I really appreciate that. I'm Robinette Bacon. I've had 28 years with the Nevada Department of Education, retiring in 2016 of March. Sat through numbers of these types of committees, and I'm really excited to be part of the process. In Nevada, I had the privilege of working on the governor's advisory task force. He commended a committee of people to look at health and safety issues throughout the state. I was in charge of all of the pre-K through secondary, as well as our community colleges, transportation, walk and pedestrian safety programs. And we had to review all of the federal highway dollars coming into the state for all of those rails and trails and connectivity and all of that. I also kept track of all of the safety plans and emergency preparedness that each of the schools had to have. including walk down, fire drills, etc. And if you ever are down in Vegas and you see the magical escalators going over the strip, I had something to do with that because we felt that was a major sensory explosion. People going down that strip, we wanted to get the pedestrians off of the strip. So I've probably been in over 250 facilities in the course of my career, and I'm just really appreciative of this process. I am committed to it because I have grandchildren that attend right now currently at the middle school, and I have seen a great quality education. I want to see it continue, and I'd like to commend the school board as well as the district personnel on their efforts towards a really good data-driven, long-range planning process that isn't a knee-jerk reaction that we can take to the public and we can say, look, this is the reason we need these facilities upgraded. This is why we're doing the work that we're doing. That's my soapbox.
My name is Janet Feldman. I am a mother of 3. 2 West Valley graduates who are currently at University of Washington and junior. And I think West Valley is the premier school district in the area, and I want to see it continue to be so. And I am also concerned about how future projects are undertaken. It seems that some of the older buildings at West Valley were really not built to last. I grew up in New York State. My elementary school was built in 1924. My dad went there. I went there. It's still used. It's a beautiful building, and it's solid, and it was able to be adapted. And so I would love to see a new building, something that can last for 100 years, so we don't have to go through major bond issues, obviously. But anyway, that's my point of view.
Angela Watts, Assistant Superintendent, Finance and Operations for West Valley School District. I'm involved because I was asked to, but also to provide information, to get to know what the needs are, have a better understanding of the process, and I enjoy well, I guess this is more why the personal goal is so that there's, that we're working together and we get a bond pass or 2 or 3.
My name is Stephen Robertson. I'm a pharmacist. I have 2 children in Summitview, and I'm here because I want to make a difference.
My name is Heidi Mokel. I live in the district. My littles haven't hit school yet, and I teach 2nd grade at Cottonwood. And the reason I'm on this team is I am the association president. So I will serve as the liaison back to the teaching staff.
Mike Brophy, superintendent here in West Valley School District. Excuse me. I just got back yesterday from Nashville, Tennessee. We were one of 12 districts in the United States that were recognized as an innovative district. We presented on Monday and Tuesday, and we did a heck of a job representing everybody. We have a fabulous team here in this district, absolutely fabulous. And so I'm involved because I lead the district, but serve at the pleasure of the school board. I have a tremendous, like I said, team that I work alongside. And my personal goal is to make sure we meet our needs and continue to provide the facilities we need as we move forward.
I'm Nick Carpet, so I guess I'm invested in this in a couple different ways. I'm the father of 6 kids, 5 of which are currently in the district. We just moved out here last year from East Valley, and I'll tell you, part of when you were talking, it made me think. Whenever a bond went up on the ballot in East Valley, I mean, I talked to all my friends, and they said, "Yeah, of course we're voting for the bond." It was no question, and I knew a lot of people out there. There's no question. And I move out here, and I mean, my friends look the same to me in all regards, but when I say are you going to vote for the bond, they say no. And I mean, to be honest with you, I'm so perplexed by, the difference that you go from East Valley to West Valley, and that answer changes so much. And one thing, to be honest with you, that stands out to me is that every time I say to someone, why do you not support the bond? There's so many different reasons out there, and half of them, I mean, I'll be frank, half of them are bogus. They're just misunderstandings. Half of them are very valid concerns that people want to see addressed, or just get some clarification and some answers to before they support any kind of change. And so it's helpful to get that perspective. And then also, I'm the principal out at Mountain View Elementary, which is one of those old buildings. It's been remodeled in the last, was it 93? But yeah, 24 years. But
It's common, everybody's home.
yeah, it was built in 1953. So anyhow, I also think that we just have a phenomenal district, and the funny thing about it is I think most everybody that lives in West Valley feels that way. I mean, most everybody I talk to in the community loves the schools, and they love the people, and they love the personnel. But anyhow, so I'm a little, I'm glad the direction Ryan has is to get the community involved and to let it drive it. And I'd love to see that because I feel that most people are out there in our community would rather hear, well, this is what somebody said, so I'm not going to vote for the bond, and that's the end of it. And I would like to see, and I keep saying to them, my dentist the other day was saying something about, well, I heard it was this. And I said, you need to get on the committee then. Because if you've got opinions on that, and whoever you got that information from, invite them to be on the committee. Because we'd like to hear those things and see if we can address them or if there are things that should be considered. So thanks for leading this, Brian.
Michelle Mueller. I am a grant writer at Yakima Valley Farm Workers Clinic, and I have 2 kids in the district. Well, one going into 4th grade and then into kindergartner. I'm involved because it's important. It's our kids' education.
My name is Mamie Barboza. Personally, I am a resident of West Valley School District. I have 3 children, 12, 10, and soon to be 3. And obviously that impacts me on that level. On my professional side, I'm the executive director for EPIC, which is a nonprofit organization that provides early learning, early education services to low-income families and families with children with special needs. And we have done a lot of work with the West Valley School District around preschool to 3rd grade alignment. And we currently have, we had slots in the Autanum Elementary School, in Cottonwood Elementary, and in White Hollow Elementary. And we've had to move 40 slots to the East Valley School District as a result of the space being needed, obviously, for K-12 programs. But I want to be sure that we keep in mind that providing services to our most vulnerable children and their families prior to entering kindergarten is a really good idea. It's a really good thing. And keeping those services here in the West Valley District as the district continues to expand and grow is also very important. And so my reason for being here is to try to keep the focus on making decisions around what's best for kids, what's best for our most vulnerable kids and our community.
Mark, would you like to introduce yourself just really quick?
Sure. My name is Mark Strong. Concerned parent and try to be a very active person in the school district to help out and assist wherever I can in a variety of ways. I'm involved or like to be involved in this particular committee because I do believe in the future of what we are trying to accomplish here, better schools, better school district. And I think we need the infrastructure and the accommodating things to make that really happen. In other words, a strong support mechanism to ensure that not just right now that we have good education, but 5 years or 10 years down the road, my kids will be through the system at that point, but at least today I can contribute whatever I can to make sure that, perhaps my kids' kids are able to do as well in a school district like West Valley.
Thank you. So once again, just as we come back, our mission statement, I'm going to use this every time. I don't expect anybody to build up the mantra and chant, but it's a growing district. We've got to provide facilities that enable our educators to prepare students in a culture of encouragement, challenging coursework, diverse opportunities to create graduates ready to compete and excel in the world. world stage. Dr. Brophy's really brought that to heart is we're building kids in West Valley that unfortunately aren't all gonna live in West Valley, but if they're gonna go out and they're gonna compete with every other student that's out there. So let's build them as strong, as capable as possible. So just to come back, we've got a couple charges, again, kind of in our document. Item number 1, elementary boundaries assessment recommendation report. The district went through the process earlier this spring. It was all about elementary school boundaries. I think in the right perspective, the school board said, we know we need to make some changes. Let's go ahead and take some time. Let's understand what's going on. Let's develop the full kind of packet of information so that we can engage the community once again and then make a decision moving forward. So that's our first task, our first responsibility, and our deadline is September the 7th. Second item then is to kind of come back and provide a fiscal review, a review of how we're paying for our facilities, our bonds, whether or not that's the right tool to apply. I'll make a quick note here. Dr. Brophy's been off researching the internet all day. I was actually doing the same, asking the question, what the heck's our state budget going to look like? And that's something that we're not going to talk about tonight because frankly it's all rumor and innuendo at this point. I think they're probably still trying to figure stuff out in the back rooms. But it's going to change the funding and the formulation structure for what we're going to receive. Let me rephrase that. How we're going to be taxed as citizens, and then how those school districts might get some of that money back. So it's all going to change, and as we move forward, that's going to better inform both the kind of maintenance and operations levy perspective that we rely upon now, and potentially the bond or new facility kind of construction process. But we're going to go back and complete the fiscal review. Item number 3 is a 10-year plan. Our goal in the 10-year plan, again, is October the 23rd. And that's really our vision document. That's our document that says, here's where our kids are, here's where our enrollment projections are coming from, here are our condition of our facilities, and here's our plan, or here's our recognition of our need. We have one. And beyond that, recommendation for the board, general scope and timing of bonds and levies. Again, the levy structure is in flux. Our current maintenance and operations levy is back up for renewal in 2018. And so that's one of those items that we have to evaluate. We have to, again, as a committee, come back with a recommendation as to, gosh, we really think we should run that in February, May, August, November, whatever those timelines might be. And then, frankly, if that works into a construction process. Long-term wise, the facility committee doesn't ever go away. My intent is that once we get through this kind of sprint, this heavy summer of responsibilities and work and really grinding through the issues, we're going to have some plans, and then we're going to be into a quarterly process moving forward. Okay? The facilities committee doesn't go away. I've used that exact same example with Citizens for Better Schools, West Valley Citizens for Better Schools. In the past, it's been a light switch organization. When we had a bond or levy, lights came on, everybody ran around and did stuff. When the lights went off, we all went away. We're not going to allow that to happen again. The Facilities Committee is an ongoing expectation and responsibility. We have a school district that, again, an analogy I've used, a county school district that's become a city school district. The bigger your district, the bigger your kind of maintenance and management obligations we have. Not just from a district perspective, but from a community engagement perspective. So we're going to be an engaged community. We're going to continue to plan. We're going to continue to be prepared to provide new recommendations to the school board. Seek new opportunities to engage our community. All right, so homework for number 1. For after meeting number 1, we had a couple things. We had a go out and recruit some friends to complete our Citizens for Better Schools community survey. We went from about 427 respondents to 576. I'll just say thank you. It's the efforts that we all had that got us to get another 150 respondents. We need to continue that effort. Again, the initial email was about 4,000, 4,200. We've added to that a few, but continue to recruit people. I was tempted to give you guys little cards to take to the grocery store and hand out to get our survey. Citizens for Better Schools will be out with a district-wide mailing in the very near future that's going to continue to encourage that feedback process. So we'll get out and get that back. If If you have friends or family and you've got email addresses, turn them in and we'll send them we'll send them a survey request. Start to develop or assist us in developing an understanding about how our community perceives our district and how it perceives our bonds and levy issues. I gave you, 15 boxes because our district's essentially been divided into kind of 15 groups of buildings or building groups, or however you want to call that. So, the intent here was to give you some jot space, to write down some things you didn't know, write down some interesting factoids, and just some kind of key information that might be valuable for you to remember. As I mentioned before, as I hope you all understood, the intent to get the videotaped process was that so our community could see it. We can go back and we can see Chris later, but that obviously we can have accessible video footage that we can go back and pull out and then we can share when we have the opportunity. Okay. So that's the value of our piece of paper, again, kind of content and jot space. The back of this then, same form as we had from last time. Again, kind of a jot space, some topics, some ideas, some elements that you might want to consider moving forward, maybe some questions we need to ask, maybe some learning objectives that maybe we need to have a better understanding of how many parapros do we actually have for Braille in the district, whatever that fact or interesting point of information may be. And then on the right side, we're just starting to lay out some of the data as it relates to current student enrollment, current classroom assignments, what we have in the district for resources and teachers within those grade levels.
So I had the opportunity to go visit some of you elementary school. I went and took a tour with Eva, who is the principal. She's not here tonight, but first of all, I should definitely thank her. A couple of things she said that stood out to me before I go into details that I really liked. It's not about having a nice new building, but one where the kids can learn and teachers can teach. So it's nice to hear that from a principal when she's explaining, challenges in her school, that it's not about having the latest and greatest, but it's about enabling her staff to do what they're there to do, which is teach the kids in an environment that's beneficial to them. So this is kind of the review. Outside of the school was built in 1954. What was on the plaque. Here's the outside, very open to the public, which, in the 1950s was not a big deal. Nobody thought about it. Obviously, that's a bigger concern. Almost all of the classrooms have 2 entries, one leading to the outside, one leading to an interior courtyard. The outside obviously remains locked, but there is always a security concern, which in modern school plans we have to address. This is not the prison yard. This is actually a corner in the front of the school. They have this that runs between the 2 buildings. Several things. One, it's a security measure. The fence piece is in terms of keeping kids in, and the other piece with the barbed wire is not so that they don't get out because they're trying to escape, but they're trying to keep kids from climbing up and going off on the roof, which, as 6-year-old, 10-year-old Chris would totally appreciate. And would have done the same thing had that not been there. So this is one of the exterior doors. Obviously, this is, more of a kids, are going to mess with stuff. It's just going to get used. But something that you need to look at is it's older equipment facilities. People have a fixed amount of budget. They're handling a lot of other things. So just kind of stuff that's a little bit old, a little bit outdated. This is storage area for them. They are so strapped on space that they have their storage under the awnings in the interior courtyard of the building. So it's where kids play and they store a bunch of different stuff. It's secured around all 4 sides. This courtyard is in the exact interior, so there's building all around it. But again, this is out pretty much where kids are out playing, and it's kind of making do with what they have. This is a large boiler room that obviously it's not in use. They have a more modern HVAC system, but this is really unusable space minus some storage here. I know that I'm sure there's been talks about looking at getting it moved, and there's a huge cost to moving something like that. I made the joke that if there's enough metal in it, we could hire some people who You know, we may need money for other things to come in and they'll get it out for you in 15 minutes. But it's, you know, it's large, it's taking up space, but again, it's kind of a sign of an outdated facility.
Asbestos or?
There are, I can't remember if I saw popcorn ceilings or not, but I'm sure there's probably some.
What about the insulation around the boiler?
Okay, so they're it built in the 50s, so
That's why I was
odds
questioning.
are it was, you know, the asbestos was probably one thing there. So this is the kitchen facility. Now, similar to, and I only know the other school I know is Apple Valley where my son goes, is the meals are prepped here. This is a room off on its own. The cart is wheeled out to where the lunch is served. Kids pick up their food and then they eat in their classrooms. So as you can imagine, as an educator, having a classroom where you teach and then also feed your kids gets a lot of additional wear. It's also a lot more time where the kids are spending in your classroom cooped up rather than being, you know, where I grew up, most of the time eating in the gym or outside, kind of out on your own. So this is, you know, again, they're making do with what they have, but it's a limit in terms of what their facilities can do. This is their gym. It's not full size. I have some of the facts down the road later I'll talk to you about. But if they have an entire
It's
school,
also not that crooked.
I did a panoramic shot. I was trying to capture the whole gym and be, you know, fancy. So this gym the capacity is smaller than the school size. So if they have a full assembly, they are technically not within probably fire code in terms of the max capacity of people there. Eva knew that I was presenting this, so she was full aware that I would bring that fact up. This is a portable computer station that houses a bunch of computers. The school has 3, I believe. They are used to go around and around. They're all portable computers. One interesting fact is that they can't have more than one of these in a given classroom because the electric will overload the system. So again, looking at outdated electricity, they can only have one of these charging the classroom at a given time. This is really hard to see. I apologize. I tried to mess with the lighting. This right here, right here is in one classroom, a teacher's desk. This is the Ethernet to get to the computer, along with there was lines for projectors. So as you can see, and you'll see in subsequent slides, they made good use of the overhead lighting as a method of getting wires to where they need to go in the room. Obviously, that's kind of not just an eyesore, but I think it's potentially unsafe. It's an example of how this facility has limited adaptability to modern teaching and modern computers and the way students are learning and engaging today. So that's one. I think I've got a couple more pictures here. This is networking stuff that, because of the way it's built, you can't really put in the wires. And there's a popcorn ceiling, which is more asbestos. But it's all on the walls, and you hide the networking stuff as best you can, but it's pretty much out in the open in the school. And that's just due to the way the school is built. You can't really get anywhere else around it. Let's see what else I have for you. Oh yeah, here's just one more shot of how we've kind of hung the wiring. So it's pretty, it's pretty out there. And the school is so outdated that the map doesn't even have Alaska and Hawaii. That was a joke. It's over off to the side.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm trying to make this a little more fun. So some of the notes, built in the 1950s, enrollment for 11-12 was 257. As of June, it's 343. So you can see there's pretty dramatic growth over the last 5 years. So as a comparison, some of you had 75 second graders in 3 sections, whereas White Hollow had 73 and 4. White Hollow has, yes?
What is the section?
Classroom.
It's the amount of classes in A grade level.
Okay.
So there's the capacity issue that needs to be addressed, which is obviously part of our charge. Like the Summit View, again, the gym is 278 students with current enrollment at 343. They're out of compliance if they have an assembly or family event. Basically, all usable space is taken up, as I showed you. Storage is under the eaves, it's in the courtyard. The only other storage room is that big boiler room, but you can only hold so much stuff there. A couple more interesting notes and kind of a good example of what we're up against. Speech and resource students share a classroom, making individualized instruction in speech therapy very difficult. As you can imagine, some of those students are the most vulnerable and need the most work, one-on-one attention, and a learning environment that allows them to focus. This is very difficult to do in those situations. There's occupational therapists, so there's a blind child there. They receive their training in the hallway of the school, so they're not even in there. Oh yeah, that's right below the Braille. So, and there's, one thing Eva mentioned was there's active transitions going on every 30 minutes. So again, that's not a learning environment when it comes down to it. There's one classroom that some of you that enters and exits into a hallway. The rest have 2 exterior doors, like I mentioned earlier. And then apparently I copied my last sentence twice because I thought it was up there. So again, it's not about having a nice new school. It's about having a school that meets the needs of the 21st century. And I think that that pretty much sums up something.
White Hollow is an elementary school. Frankly, in 1986, it's still one of our newer buildings. It shows its wear. Again, I apologize, I really don't back the outside. This is a really good example, though, of just wear of concrete. So we've got a typical concrete sidewalk. This is right outside the administration area, and we've got rough spots coming through. There's rebar in the concrete. That's part of why we put it in there, is to strengthen the concrete, make it more resilient over time. But we're obviously starting to show some of the crack and some of the wear. The carpet in the school is basically all worn. It's not threadbare by any means, but it's all showing its age because I don't believe it's ever been replaced. Over this winter, we had a series of roofing failures on White Hollow. There's the fact that this entrance, there's kind of a weird roofing system that the valley on the roof gave out finally and caused a lot of water damage inside. The roof on this building is all original. So it's a 1980s or 90s era building with a 25-year shingle roof, and we can all do the math that it's much older than 25 years. We have a very old roof on this building, and again, it's one of those areas of facility maintenance that the committee is going to need to provide a plan on how to continue to improve. We have 3 portable buildings on site. I believe these are Head Start portables, kind of a paired portable with a little bit of a connecting hallway in between. And then we have an additional portable on the backside. I'm not sure what was going on there today, but it was a very noisy building at the time. Other areas of damage we've had over the winter, this is an eave that failed, and so it's in the process of an actual repair right now. This is on the backside of the gymnasium. The portable was placed. We didn't break up any of the asphalt or the concrete, and so all of our connections between the building and the portable are just suspended in the air overhead. So, outside, typical door break here. Again, it's all rusty. It's just part of the wear and tear that we have on the buildings and some of the maintenance we haven't been able to achieve. White Hall is a great building. Every time I drive by, there's a baseball practice going on, there's a soccer game going on. It's a very used, very nice green space. It's out Jerry's back door. He probably hears those kids all the time. It's one of our great green grass spaces in the district. It's very, very accessible for our community. So it's a very nice space overall. White Hall is a building in which there's a number of kind of maintenance almost capital project work that's going to occur even this summer. Again, some of the outside issues, we've got some roofing replacement that's going to occur. This building is original from a heating and ventilation perspective. So we're talking about 1980s systems that are well past any expected life period. So again, just kind of a basic building.
Can I make a few additional comments?
Absolutely.
This is a building that actually, although it has some maintenance issues associated with it, it is a building that could be expanded upon. It is one of the few of our buildings, elementary buildings, that we could remodel by expansion and adding some wings, and where that would make sense to do so. This is one of those buildings where we could create some additional capacity by not necessarily starting completely over again. Absolutely. And that would be something that and that would be something that I would point out. And actually, though it has some of the issues that Ryan mentioned, it's been a building that has actually done very well for us, and that's a credit to our facilities department. But this is a resource that we can utilize and expand upon, not start over.
Do you mean because of the space that's there?
Because of the space that's there, and because of the construction and the floor plan, I mean, it wouldn't be inconceivable to add wings, if you will, onto the existing. I don't know that we've ever had that actually drawn up before, but it could be expanded upon.
The intent in building that building was that it could be expanded.
Right.
And that hasn't changed.
Yeah. So that's gets back a little bit to Janet's position about, hey, this is a building that with proper maintenance could stand the test of time, and then we could modernize and expand. Whereas other buildings, I mean, clearly some of you that would be a difficult challenge. Mountain View would have some challenges, but Cottonwood would be another building. We haven't got to that yet, but Cottonwood would be another building that could be expanded from its current footprint.
And so here is your floor plan for White Hollow. And as Mike pointed out, so this is the administration portion of the building. Meeting entries here. It's from a facility layout perspective, they've done a nice job with a controlled entry. So the concept now on controlled entry is no one can open the door unless you have a key, essentially. And so if I'm a member of the public, I get to approach the main door, I get to push a little button. There's a video camera there that says, "Who the heck are you?" And the staff lets you in if you should be there, and they don't let you out if you shouldn't. And then in many of the other buildings, there's also, in many cases, sometimes a secondary door that's also inside. But you can see kind of this radial design. And so the concept on a building like this, and it is in some respects because we have enough green space, one of the kind of siting concepts for a building is you need a big enough site so that you have room to kind of push out if you need to in some direction. And so this is a good example where this portion of the building with sufficient space, and in this case it's headed kind of towards Hill.
The top two, that one, and then the one just to that would be the south. It's not that one, the other one.
Yeah, this one. Yeah. So those both have the ability to kind of push and expand the wings and add some classrooms.
We could push and expand the other, but it would then go with the one in the lower.
Towards the parking lot.
Toward the parking lot, then you, not that one, but this one, that pod would then extend to the parking lot.
So that's one of the concepts on a building is if you can add another wing because you have some structure or some growth opportunities there. In many cases now in elementary schools, because growth is a continual need, architects and engineers plan well with the kind of capacity to add on. So those are some of the decisions that we make in the design process, and they're perhaps more investment than we need right now, but they provide that opportunity.
Well, one other factoid about this building, the district's special education department is housed in the offices of this building.
I just wanted to thank Lori Alderman because she arranged for my facilitation visit with Mike Hamill, who I got to tell you, primo primo, head custodial person. I mean, this building was built in 1950, and it wouldn't look like it does today if you didn't have a primo staff taking care of it. I had the pleasure of talking with Richard Pryor, the principal. I went at 10 o'clock on the 21st, and I stayed till noon. And I'm telling you, it was just a real joy to tour that facility. I'm hearing some common themes among what we've seen, and you will definitely see that in my photos as well. Thanks to Angela. I'll tell you, these are thankless jobs. And I got to tell you, these silly reports that have to go into the superintendent of public instruction in Washington on the condition of your schools, they're a driving force that make a lot of other things happen. So it's important that we pay attention to them. I'm using that as the description for Autonome, and according to the report, they are showing 23 direct instructional spaces, which, according to the IPES report, there are 50.97 that are considered in poor condition. Okay, they have one portable that they built in 2002, which added 3,584 square feet. They have split that portable into two spaces of 1,792 square feet. That's considered in fair condition. That's added to their total instructional space for the school site. So if we look at the first picture, when
Which
you're
one's the
gonna
first
go
picture?
inside.
I don't know, these maybe aren't in the order you expect.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, not quite the order expected, but I can deal with it. I was gonna show you the approach to the school because for those of you that aren't familiar with Autonome, you go out like you're going to Wiley City and it's a little country road. And one of the things that I immediately noticed with my direct observation in approaching the elementary school is the lack of adequate parking space at the facility. And then when there was the consideration of the actual expansion of that facility, it was like, well, where are these extra buses gonna go? And where would the parents dropping off their kids park? I just had some real concerns about that. You'll notice that the roof is a rolled roof. It's 7 to 8 years since it's been repaired. Doors are steel doors. The windows are double paned with no tints on them. One of the things that I immediately noticed, there was a sign and it said no parking within 50 feet of the building. And I can recall in the wintertime visiting some school sites, there was no guttering, so these huge icicles are allowed to form. And the kids, being kids, are going to take their backpacks and do what kids do and rip off those icicles. And I can tell you, personally witnessing a kid that had one of those icicles just embedded in his head, and all the kids are trying to help, and you've got all the bloodborne pathogen, the whole thing going on, and it's rough. So you just have to be careful about some of those. Some of the classrooms do have gutterings, but most of them don't. So there's not a real wrap-around guttering system when you look at the outside of the school. Looking at the actual school plan itself, they do use the Nob Hill pump irrigation system, and they have propane for their heating. Their HVAC system is a 25-year-old system. And what I found out when I was looking at the school, those ceilings in the classroom are drop ceilings. They have carpeted floors. They have sheetrock textured walls. But if you pull up those ceiling panels, you can actually see the burnt beams from the fire. What was that, in 1963, I think it was, that they said, or maybe it was 65. They had a fire at the school. And one of the concerns they had is there hasn't been a whole lot of changes when they did the major renovation from that time. So the school has 2 media centers. major computer labs that you'll see. Beautiful, beautiful storage spaces as far as in the classrooms itself that you don't find in a lot of older schools. They do, you'll see here he's showing the exterior. This is actually on the K-2 primary playground area. And this is a real concern that the both the principal expressed as well as the staff that I saw and spoke to. There's some real uneven areas externally, and there have been Band-Aid approaches, of course, to trying to, seal some of these cracks. But there's some real uneven spaces, and they've had a lot of kids that have tripped and fallen, and they have that pea gravel on the K parking playground area, which is somewhat of a problem as far as, just trying to minimize injuries. Anyway, when you keep going through the photos, you'll see a difference in the level of the ground. Okay. Classrooms, though, you can see the same kind of fires that we saw in the other elementary schools. The principal expressed a major concern about the electricity and the technology and how they really had to kind of jury-rig their things. You'll see at the top there, in trying to get technology into the classrooms, it's been somewhat of a problem. But they do have beautiful woodwork, cubbies, storage spaces. One of the concerns, this is actually the picture you just showed. That is an outside area that the custodial staff has to maintain for a little grassy area that the teachers actually sit at and eat their lunches. The rest of the maintenance is done by the facilities team, but not the custodial staff itself. But anyway, that's that little building that extends out, and it's on the side where the kindergarten classrooms are. And it's locked all the time, but he showed me where they store the gasoline and the other things that he deals with as far as maintaining the exterior of the building. Okay, then that's the exterior of that center, and then you can see behind that, that goes out to that pea gravel area where the kindergartners play. Okay? There's some more of the Band-Aid approaches to trying to fix what's there, and of course, I understand there's competing priorities among what gets done there. This just shows you the kinds of hazards that currently exist now. And this is the walkway that the kids come in and use to get into the classroom. And there have been several people who have been injured. The concrete there is extremely deteriorating. And, you can just see it, it just crumbles. So that's a problem. It has chain link fencing. It isn't what I would call, super secure, but it's doing the job now. This is an entrance. That's that area that the custodial maintains. It's not part of the actual rest of the playground that you'll see in some later slides. That's some of the great storage that currently exists. This is the teacher's lunchroom, work prep area. The PTA just bought them a brand new refrigerator. You'll see that, I think, in the next slide. They're very proud of that. And they get a lot of parental support. It's very much a family-oriented school. Staff in the front know all the kids, even the kids that were coming in during my visit. We're just coming to visit, popping in, saying hi to whoever was working there. This is in the area of the office. I just wanted to show you, compared to a lot of schools, you just don't see this kind of storage space. This is a great example of a well-prepped portable with great access. It has a steel ramp. That's that newer portable facility that I was telling you about. Those two classrooms are the only classrooms at that facility that do not have portable sinks inside of the classroom. All the other classrooms have their own sink area for the students. That's the exterior of the building. You can see it's also brick as well as concrete as well as sheetrock. But the guttering isn't there. There are whiteboards in some of the classrooms. This is the drainage area of the outside. And there is currently a work order where you see that orange cone. There's a work order that's currently in because that seems to be a part that just doesn't drain well. And the kids just love to have their puddle parties. And they try and keep them out of that, but it just doesn't drain. And with the tree there, they, water, and so you see what happens. That's a beautiful tree that they have to maintain, and so constantly they have the water problem. External. That's their PTA room, which they have their own little mailbox and they have their own working facility within the school, which is kind of a nice feature. In looking at the rest of you can see the condition again that has been mentioned before about the carpeting. The carpeting in the school has never, ever been changed since 1993. So when I asked, what would be your priorities for this particular school? If given your wish list, what would it be? And the number one was the carpeting and the flooring. They thought that needed some kind of attention, that it hasn't been replaced since 1993. The second priority for them was asphalt and concrete. The major upgrades are needed. And then the third thing they wanted to have addressed was the drainage situation. This is a good example of how well maintained the interior corridors are. You have to realize, just as was mentioned earlier, they're getting all of their lunch facilities from the central kitchen that come into the prep area. The kids walk down these carpeted halls to the area where they get their lunches, and they have to take their lunches back and eat them in the classroom. So the custodial staff is doing lots of, spots prepping. I guess they have a routine schedule that they're using to maintain what carpet is there. You'll see that they have replaced what used to be the porcelain sink area with this ceramic, like a trough type of wash station. And these are outside of the actual bathrooms. More classrooms to see what kind of, this is showing again the needs for the electricity and how they've had to put in the power strips and how they've had to kind of jerry-rig the wiring. But beautiful, beautiful storage facilities throughout the classroom spaces. And if they're not in the classroom spaces, they're just adjacent to the classrooms. You'll see that in the next slide.
That's the last one on the list.
Is that the one?
Is there anything else on this?
Just a couple of quick notes. They were not sure about the HVAC system. They felt that had been put in 1993. He wasn't sure how if there's been an update since then, so I'm not sure about that.
I don't think there has been. That's a need that's on our list of stuff right now.
And there was a photo of the actual plant itself showing that the propane and the you do have stairs that you walk down, and I thought there were photos of the music room and the gymnasium. You don't have those on there?
Those must not come through.
Okay, there is a gymnasium which they're calling their multi-purpose room. The multi-purpose room, if you pull up that facilities map, it might show. there is a fold-out accordion wall that separates the music room from the actual gymnasium. And there is theatrical lighting in that facility, and in the music room itself, within that music room, there's 4 internal, very large closets that are used to house the instruments and other storage facilities. So that was something you didn't get to see. I thought that might have come through on that. The grounds are mature trees, beautifully maintained. Like I say, very much a feel-good neighborhood kind of school. They're just very concerned about the traffic issue with the arrival and dismissal time, trying to get people to adhere to the bus routing and the limited parking that's available is somewhat of a concern. So in talking with staff, those are their wishes that I'm sharing with you. I would concur with some of those priorities as far as their observations. There are wood floors in the gym. The gym itself is quite nice.
I have a question for you.
Yeah,
One of
sure.
the things I noticed in some of those photographs, but portables in particular, I noticed the wires to it, the power was all overhead. Is that the
Exactly.
case in all portables? I don't know.
Not in all portables, no, but I think that was the most expeditious way that they had at the time.
So given that that's an older building, by some standards here, are the wires to the building itself, those are underground, right? Or
Yeah,
those-
most of them, yeah.
Most of them?
I did ask.
That,
That
yeah,
question.
you're very thorough, so.
And when you look at the actual plan itself, you actually have to go down the stairs to get to the HVAC system and everything is kind of below. I'm sorry, those pictures, I've got them on my phone if you want to look at them. But yeah, but I just have to say kudos to the staff because they have done, this would be the downstairs area. And, you know, the propane area, it's also on a septic system, it's not part of the sewer system. And I asked how often that gets pumped, nobody could give me the answer. I thought that was very interesting.
So did I hear you say the heating and HVAC system, that's underground too, or down?
HVAC, the HVAC,
For the heating,
comes from underground up, yes. That's, I'll show you the picture.
The heating and ventilation is all on the roof. It's all rooftop packs.
Okay.
And I would concur, they, at least on the outside, they all look great, 1993, kind of just the wear and tear on that.
But I would say that school very definitely, if for no other reason, needs to have that carpeting addressed because it hasn't been replaced since 1993. They've had some flooding issues, there's been some things that probably should get.
I had the pleasure of going out to Mountain View with Nick, principal, and he showed me around. And first of all, the thing I was most surprised about was I thought it was really not gonna be in good condition at all, because it's way out in the country. And usually the smaller country schools tend to get forgotten. And that wasn't the case. Yes, it's dated, every school's dated. Sure, there's paint and all of that, but for the most part, there's a solid school. The bones are there, the space is there. One of the first things Nick said was they don't have enough students. They need more students. That's the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems is they need more bodies in the school so we can keep the teachers there so that we fully are using the space that we have. They don't have the storage issues. I didn't notice, the classrooms were large. I want to say close to this big even, maybe
Quite a bit.
a little smaller. And they were good sized classrooms with lots of storage. The security was one of the issues. There's 2 entrances that the public can get into. I guess they keep one locked or both locked during the day.
Just one.
Just the back one? The back
The
one's
back
locked.
one's unlocked.
Okay, gotcha. Some issues, plumbing is an issue out there. The tree roots are growing into the pipes. Pipes are old. The school's built in 1853 and renovated in the early 90s. And that was the last time. But, so the pipes are from the 50s. It has to get cleaned out a lot so that the kids can use it. Toilets is kind of important. There's paint peeling, some of the wood needs to be replaced on the outside or on the awnings, but for the most part, what I saw was cosmetic. Except for the pipes, it appeared to be mainly cosmetic that needed to be done out there, and it seems like there's a lot of opportunity for getting more students out there. They have plenty of room for more kids. And you know, again, like you were saying, a sense of community there. I mean, Nick was telling me he knows all the kids' names. I used to be a teacher, I didn't know the whole second grade's names. That's just, you know, that's hard. Am I missing anything? There's some pictures in there of just, the gym's outdated, but it's not unusable. They have a whole computer lab full of working computers. They have another computer lab full of half working computers. But there's enough space, there's enough everything for the students, and I think out there a little bit would go a long way for that school. Unless.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like, I'm such a glass is half full type of guy that I worked there for a year and there could be 100 things wrong and I wouldn't notice it unless someone tells me because I just, the thing I noticed, the custodian Ken Youngberg has been out there for a long time, and he said, you know, we really are fortunate to not have some of the issues that some of even the newer buildings have from the facilities perspective. There's definitely some things that need done out there, and just like the other schools will become a priority at some point to be fixed, but structurally we've been pretty lucky that some of that stuff's held up.
They have no leaks. That was good, but
yeah, we
didn't leak in the winter.
Just, Michelle, that was a really good report. And interestingly enough, Mountain View and the Tandem were both totally remodeled the same year, as well as Cottonwood being built and coming out. So all 3 of those buildings are similar. You could say, well, there are a lot less students at Mountain View and it needs students, but it's a lot smaller school too. So it's been taken care of very well.
Yes, it has, absolutely.
It is. For every classroom is in use. We don't have more classrooms, so to that point. But what we do, I mean, it drives other principals crazy when they hear that we've got class sizes of 15, 16, and there's other classes that are. But to your point about a tandem being built the same year, I was pointing out to her, the carpet in a tandem in the classroom is the carpet we have in our office, and then vice versa.
Right.
And in our classrooms or in their office. So they just, rather than having the same carpet in the whole building, they took half and half and split them into two. Which actually I think is a pretty good idea.
Then the only other 2 interesting things about Mountain View, again, it is far from obviously city services, so it relies on its own groundwater well.
Yeah.
And it has its own drain field. Those are both 2 items that are on the facility need to do list. The irrigation season for fruit and for orchard use is very, very significant, and so they have a series of problems that they're frankly concerned about the integrity of the well and the ability to continue to provide them water.
Well, and the water does come in, and I don't know how much it's from the old piping or how much is the water, but we tell the kids to bring their own water bottles because the kids say it tastes like blood and it's kind of coppery. I mean, it's safe, it's tested and it's safe, but I don't drink it.
The last statement he said is real important for everybody to know. We have tested, we don't have anything that exceeds the amounts.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It is safe, but
it's within the boundary. It's under the requirement. So.
It is safe, yeah.
One thing, if I can, real quick.
Yes,
I don't want
please.
to interrupt you, Michelle. One of the things that, I don't know how many people know this, and Ryan, I just wanted to throw it out there. We just recently approved some maintenance and capital projects spending out of fund balance. Once you spend it, that's gone. But that's really what it's for, is one-time expenditures. Instead of paying for all the people out of fund balance, your savings account. But the way that most districts pay for these cracks, these things that need to be fixed, is what happens is they pass a bond issue for, say, $50 million. As soon as you pass the bond issue, you sell the bonds, you take the money, you put it in a bank, and you start drawing interest on that bond money. And you funnel that money into your capital projects account, and then when somebody builds the foundation of the new school, you pay them the money out of the 50 million or whatever it is. But you keep drawing interest on that remaining balance, and you only release funds as portions of the approved bond are passed. We've passed 3 bond issues in 27 years. These things that are falling apart are only just the beginning. And fortunately, we've had a good job. Angela's done a great job managing our fund balance, but we're never going to be able to do that well, managing our fund balance. So that's the way most people pay for the upkeep things. Our last bond was 11 years ago that we passed. So that's the struggle we face compared to other districts and how they make minor improvements along the way without massive spending. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Many of the comments that I can offer are very similar to what I've already heard, but maybe I can add some additional perspective based on what we saw. I want to thank Heidi also for being there with us and helping us out, giving us sort of the grand tour, and also throwing in, her observations to supplement what we were observing. Let me start out with just when the school was built, according to what I saw, 1993, I believe it was, 24 years old. 25 classrooms, and I believe it also serves the highest student population, even though it may not be physically the biggest, I don't know that, but I think it services the highest number of students compared to the other elementary schools. One of the things that I tried to pay most attention to is 2 things in particular. First is the capacity of the school for future growth, because that is one of the biggest concerns that I think we're facing is, we know that this area of town is growing, hence the population is going to grow, and that means the student population is going to grow as well. So one of my focuses is, okay, if we have to expand or if we have to grow, is there room here or do we need to look at a different facility? So that was one thing. The other area that I tend to look at is just the internal capacity. Okay, if in fact we did wind up having to stay, was it structured or set up in a way that's conducive to better capacity for the teachers to educate our students? Did it have a system where it'd be easy to add computer networks? Even though things are going wireless much more today, who knows? Perhaps in 8 or 10 years, the technology that we think is very easy turns out to be bulky and cumbersome, and there's a new system. And some light examples might be where everything for computers tends to be wired right now. I can totally envision in 5 or 7 years a lot of that stuff is going to be all wireless. And so are we set up? We don't know. Well, we don't know. In other words, we don't know what a wireless system is going to mean for us in terms of the setup of a building. So I try to think in those terms, a little bit outside the box here, but going through and looking at the basics, this is one of the newer schools, by all accounts. It looked very clean when I went in. I did notice things like the concrete outside that we saw in some of the other schools starting to kind of crumble in places and so forth, and those obviously are going to need to be addressed at some point, but obviously the building will still stand. Some nice features, though, to point out, and things that might be, for lack of a better word, timeless or ageless in terms of set up for education. This was very interesting to us. This is a stage area between the gym on one side and the lunchroom on the other side. It could double up, or probably does already, as a classroom by itself, because you can close the 2 partitions, and I think to some degree it's even soundproof, and you can hold a class in there. If you needed to have a larger function or have more students in attendance at whatever it is that is being presented, you could use one side, which is a little bit smaller, the lunchroom, or you could go to the gymnasium, which is much larger and holds more students. Or perhaps you can open both sides if it really came down to it. But I thought that was a really nice, interesting feature that in future facilities we might want to carry over, maybe in an updated form, but the concept is very good. Also, there were some open areas. I don't know the term you use for it, Heidi, but there were some open areas that were not quite classrooms. Now that's kind of off on the hallway itself, which I thought was interesting. It's not quite a lounge area, but a comfortable area. Education, learning could go on there. Students would have a place to sort of socialize, interact, but at the same time it's educational in nature. It's not officially a classroom, it's not even enclosed, but it has a lot of the classroom accoutrements. You see the board there, you see the table for set up, you even see a flip chart back there. I think there's even a refrigerator or sink back there. So some very nice, useful features that could be carried on to whatever we might need to do in the future. I like this idea simply because it gives another alternative space for use for the building itself, whether it's teaching or something else. This is the courtyard area, kind of interesting, totally enclosed, which from my perspective is nice in the sense of added security. Teachers, it would probably take fewer personnel to watch an area as enclosed as opposed to being outside and more exposed to whoever happens to be going by or just in general. See there's classroom. One of the things that I did notice, even though the school is out of session, going through there, the classrooms themselves tended to be, I don't want to say cluttery, but just a lot of stuff in them. And that may be an indication of the need for more room or more space down the road, or if not right now, it certainly shows that there's a lot of activity in a limited amount of space. Thank you for bringing that. Is that ceiling spot that we were looking at? I wanted to point that out because this is kind of indicative of some of the other stuff that we saw indicating the aging of some of the buildings. Even though this one is one of the more newer buildings, you can see up there, and it's more pronounced if you're in the room and looking at it, looking up. Yeah, that crack line there was actually two of them. That was one we saw. I thought I saw another one to the side, but it's pretty pronounced. I assume it's structurally intact and secure, else we wouldn't be using the facility, but who knows what that's going to be like in 10 years or 8 years if we don't do something about it now. I do like also that there's it may seem like waste of space, but a lot of taller ceilings around this school. I just think that bodes well for just the environment, by itself. It lends to being more comfortable. Some of the artwork you can see in the hallways, again, you can see some stuff there in the hallways, but by and large it was very clean and there's a good shot of what I mean when I say it's clean and very well organized. This was the lunchroom that we talked about earlier. I think there was 160 students who go through there at one time. Do I have that number correct? Which is a pretty good number considering there's about, over 400 students going there. So they have, I believe you said 3 lunch periods that they try to go through there, and that's manageable. But again, a fairly nice setup. I do like that stage area that I pointed to. You can see a little bit off to the right there. It looks to be closed right now. That's the cafeteria or lunch setup itself, very similar to some of the other schools. I believe they come into this area, get their lunch, and go back out on the floor where their tables set up. Okay, this is where the HVAC, I don't know if it's the total HVAC system, but that looks to be the heaters, if I'm not mistaken, the heating system for the building using natural gas. I don't know if that's been upgraded or not, but it looks fairly modern to me. It looks like it's in pretty good shape, and no one expressed any problem with it. It is, one of the things I like about how that one back up there set up, you can't see it to the right there, but there's a service door for technicians had to come in and work on something, or if they needed to open it, let's say gas or whatever, there's a big door back there that they can open where they can get exhaust or fresh air in there. So obviously some thought went into how that was set up, and it looks like a good construction set up to me. More, you can see that was, I believe, in the same room, but up a little bit. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I think that's upstairs in the janitor's
Yeah,
room.
Mike crawled up there, I didn't crawl up there,
Yeah.
Mike Moore was with me, he crawled up there and took some nice pictures for us, so.
That's all of our hoarding.
That's where all of this stuff is there, stored for their various activities they may have. I don't know if this is the main power panel or not, it's one of, it is, it's the main one, it's one of a few of them around there. One of the things that, in that room, I think it's around the corner, there's like a patch panel for computers. And, I work in the government office, federal government office, and it's kind of the older technology. We actually still use those, and they've talked about getting rid of those forever, simply because there's so many changes in the technology, even in hardwired systems. So what I noticed is that several places throughout the building, there are those kinds of panels, and yet for us, we have one central location where everything, not only for ease of service, but also for security. So I don't know if that's an issue or not, but it was something I observed. Again, that's another shot of that area where a lot of the material for whatever, props and things of that sort of thing the school might use are set up. That we saw. Okay, can you turn that light on for me, Ryan? Just look at a couple of my notes here. Bear with me, I don't have my glasses on. Some observations that, I don't know if these are things we've even considered that I think would be useful to at least think about and dialogue. Security cameras. I know most of our federal installations are now going to security cameras. I don't know, Mike, has that ever been discussed?
But we have in some buildings.
Okay.
High school, junior high, to some degree, very poor quality. Not really good coverage, primarily high school, freshman campus. That's about it, really.
Okay. We're finding more and more that in my facility we use them.
Oh, yeah.
They become very, very good ways of not only catching things if they happen, but they also act as a deterrent. So that would be one of the things that I would think that if we set up any future enhancements or changes that we might want to consider in even in new buildings. But I did notice the one little eye at the entrance, which is a start, but security cameras might be something to look at. Fireproof file cabinets, another little small internal thing, so we do keep some. I did notice there was a room where we kept some documents in a secure area. If there ever was a fire, who knows if they would burn or not, but they do make those kinds of cabinets that protect those kind of documents if you need to. We also use them to back up our backup tapes. If we ever got to a system where we had sort of a LAN setup, that would be a place to store and keep them. Let's see. Make sure I covered all my points. There was a slight expansion going on at the playground, and I thought it was a nice deal that apparently the PTA was funding. Nice to know that those organizations really do a lot. I think they get overlooked and don't get the amount of credit for what they try to do. It's very easy to overlook them when you think of the larger picture, but just a mention for them, I think that's a nice thing they're trying to do. They actually had it dug up where it looks like they're putting in, was it more playground equipment and swings and things? That's really nice. And that's it. The last thing I'll note is, and I didn't take a tape measure and put this down, but the standard classroom size to me looked to be about, 35 by 30 or something along those lines. And the only reason I bring that up now is as we look forward to the future, I know one of the things we use in the federal government to determine proper space, whether it's total individuals, or teachers, or students. In our case, we call them FTEs, and I heard that term used here. Per person, per FTE, we assign a cubic amount or a square footage. And I'm just wondering if down the road, as we look more at facilities, should we consider some sort of formula that helps justify it to the community? Because if the community sees that and buys into it, it makes our argument or our projected reasons look more valid to the public. Anyway, that's
with space size, if you're gonna totally fund the school yourself, that's fine, but if if you have state match, then the state mandates
What
that
square
square
footage
footage
is,
is.
yeah.
Right.
And I wondered about that, so that
And for elementary schools, it's been 90 square foot per student.
per student,
I don't know, that's one of the items that was talked about under the state budget was to move that up to 110 square foot for elementary students, so we'll see if that actually changes for a long time.
that might be something.
But, for instance, I'd have to do that math real quick. The architect on the last bond was actually recommending about 123 per square foot for both Apple Valley and some of the other
So do we know that our square footage per student as it is today, these with state standard at this point in all our facilities?
We know what it is, I guess.
Yeah, so
We can do the math on all of it.
yeah,
Square footage right now, we exceed the state's requisition. But there are elements that build into that, for instance, a gymnasium. And so if you have a school district with a lot of extra gymnasium space, all that kind of square footage is important.
well, yeah, same, so. And I throw that out with the wind of caution, because sometimes that can backfire. Sometimes standards dwindle, and that's one of the things that we're constantly doing too. So I just throw that out as a consideration, something to think about as we move forward. And that's it, I'm kind of.
One of the things I'll add in that Mark and Michael noticed when they walked in was because Cottonwood kids eat in the lunchroom, our school is very clean. We don't have the kindergartners spilling the tomato soup in the hall every other Wednesday and things like that. And so that is probably, everyone notices that and comments how nice our building looks because we have an amazing custodial staff. But also, there's not 430 lunches walking down the hall and in those classroom carpets, so.
Thank you for that, yeah.
That's
One last point I want to add too, and this relates to security, this is a practice we're starting to adopt in our buildings, is that we try, for teacher safety, we try to have them park, our employees, they park behind the building as opposed to where the public parks in the front, so there's that natural separation. I think there's a little bit of that in that building where they're off to the side and off to the rear. Is that, I didn't ask that, but is that rear area for teacher parking or is that
Yes,
open to the
that's
public?
that.
So we try to do that too, which I think is an excellent idea when we talk about safety and security, especially for the staff.
I'm gonna do a quick run through on Apple Valley, and then we're gonna want a conversation as to what we wanna do, whether or not we're gonna call a timeout, or whether or not we're gonna keep moving forward. So Apple Valley, 1969 constructed building. It was designed with the pod building concept. It was also designed with the kind of pie-shaped classroom concept. These were elements of design that were part of that in the 1960s, 1970s, in some cases referred to as kind of a California design.
Well, it's open concept.
Much more of an open concept.
That was what it was.
Yep.
Call it as well.
And so in this case, we've got an administrative building. Here with the office, this is kind of the first one we approached. We've got a large library-centered classroom in the back, and then we've got a gymnasium building off to the right. I'm not sure if there's actually any two rooms in the entire building that are the same size and shape. But it's what we have in Apple Valley. So I've had two, our Addison, our oldest, is now at middle school. Lauren's been here for, she'll be a fourth grader, and Sam will start kindergarten this fall. Interestingly, both Addison and Lauren went through kindergarten in a portable. They both knew how many steps it was from this dry portable 19 or 20 to the allowed bathroom on the backside of the kindergarten. More specifically than restrooms, my children actually knew how close it was to wash their hands because that's just part of our family. My wife doesn't let them do much without washing their hands twice. Okay, so very basic. I've been to the building a number of times. As Chris shared, this is kind of our home school. I believe for Michael for his home school also. Kind of a pod design, all of these little green rooftop those walls that basically houses the heating and ventilation system that's on the top of the roof. Open concept school, there is a gate, there's chain link around, but it is this, every classroom has an outside door concept. A little bit of interior. Similar to Summit View, you know, we have to keep kids off the roof, and so we've got some fencing and some other barriers to keep kids off the gymnasium roof. Nice integrated kind of green space in the middle of our campus. In this case, I'm showing the 3 portables that sit behind, but it's also very well cared for, very nice kind of central vegetated concept. Nice school in that regard. They had a tremendous amount of issues this winter with gutters and ice damming. Part of that was just kind of an unusual winter for us, but also just kind of a challenge we have sometimes with those slope roofs and expecting your kids to walk outside. So it was a bit of an ice skating rink at Apple Valley this winter. Facilities crew did a tremendous job. Obviously, I'll tell you as a district, our facilities did an amazing job of being able to get us back into our schools and transportation also and getting our kids safely to schools. We had some districts down in Pasco, Kennewick, where they lost 10 or 12 days in some case, and just literally got out of school last week. So kind of an interesting but very successful year for us as a district. One of the issues that we have on many of our sites are their old apple orchards, and so Apple Valley went through a remediation project back in about 2008 where they basically came in and placed clean dirt over top of the dirty dirt, and they improved the parking lots and the stormwater systems. Unfortunately, when we go to find clean dirt in the Yakima Valley, we have to go to the top of a hill, and if you notice, most of our hills aren't green, and so the soil that they import for this tends to be very poor quality, which is part of the facility's challenge of just keeping stuff up and moving it forward. So Apple Valley and some of you have both been schools where we've had this issue in elementary, for elementary schools. Again, exterior doors, very common. This is how kids get into classrooms on a day-to-day basis. This is how they move between classrooms, is this door concept. And then just a kind of a small example. This property at Apple Valley and some of you are both on the small side of what we want for available kind of grass space and challenges the planning when we go to the next stage of redevelopment of the site. And so on this concept, this kind of playing field south of the building is where the architect had identified the functional location for a new building that would allow us to construct a wholly new building at this site while maintaining class space. We don't have any extra space in the district to move kids around. Pick up 400 kids and stick them in another building or series of buildings. So we just have some space limitations. This site, I believe, is about 10 or 12 acres in total. And it's interesting because that 3 or 4 extra acres that would give us to a 15 would really be the difference. Inside, this is the teacher workroom. It's also kind of the teacher break room. It's in this season is in very good shape because we don't have any use. It's all quiet this time of year. But it's just, I've understood it just being a very busy space on a typical school day. Classrooms, again, this is kind of the end of your organization. We're moving around for cleaning custodials. In this case, our instructors just started to kind of organize paperwork and get it put away. This is a typical classroom. Heidi Sutton provided this to me. This is a typical classroom. I think that is, I think it's Miss Aveda in the back. And this is her, what would be a, I believe, secondary class of this year. So, kind of awkward teaching spaces. Her desk is over here to the left, kind of on the inside of the pie. The photos being taken, we've got an individual restroom, a water closet, a toilet space over here on the right, and then also a hand washing sink. So this open concept design. One of the interesting things that frankly is really nice about our schools is we really tend to have really good play structures outside. As noted with Cottonwood, one of those kind of geodome things is getting improved. But my kids love to go over and play on this. They'd be through the gate earlier if the district would let them, just because they love playing on stuff. So it's really well used, really cared for, both through district funding and our PTAs or PTOs. It's been a really nice kind of use for the kids to get them outside the area. Okay, so I believe we've gotten through 6 elementary schools.
Can they make just, how hard is it to get back to the workplace? One of the things I was gonna say is that, so room 21 there on the bottom right building, that's actually now 2 classrooms. So they split it down the middle and they have 2 full-size kindergarten classrooms. So what was supposed to be 1 class is now 2. And then to your point about the winters, I did dog, and I did it on like one of the days where the snow was just billowing. And so they basically turned the library into a, glorified bounce room. And it was neat to see everybody working together to keep these kids inside, and seeing people from the front office hopping on like a little tractor to go out and do snow plowing. And I mean, it's definitely a many hands on this project. So this, the open concept, while it's neat, has a lot of drawbacks, especially in the winter. Sorry.
Open concept schools were built in the late 60s and early 70s. And they weren't built to be like Apple Valley is, made into a regular classroom situation. As you can see, if you look at the top one, you had an area on the left, you had an area in the middle, and an area on the right. And that's where classes took place of similar grades, but you may have had 3 on the right and 3 on the left that were similar or close to the same age that took place. And it was all open. And the same on the one on the left. It was never made to be what Apple Valley was turned into with all those rooms that were closed in. And so you're stuck with a mess that, teachers and everyone that works there can say, I really like that. But, it's a more likable situation, I guess, would be the middle school, the way it was built. But that was similar in idea to the open concept, because you've got the open area down the middle of rooms on either side. And that was kind of the concept which works.
This isn't our
That
building.
didn't work.
This isn't our building of any sort. It's actually over at Monroe School District, and this was a middle school. But I think this is that kind of prototypical open design, where you've got some more of a centralized space, and it was broken off in this case into kind of 6 classroom, 7 classroom pods. I think it's probably a more prototypical design.
When was it built?
I don't know. It was full of PCB columns, so.
Yeah, I'm sure it was built.
50s or 60s.
I'm sure it was built way after Apple Valley.
Yeah.
Or if it wasn't, it was built to be able to be used like Apple Valley cannot be.
So just visually, it's kind of how stuff lays out different.
Yeah.
Okay, so the good news and the bad news is you've learned about half of our schools. So I'm happy to stay around, but I also recognize that we've already been here for almost 2 hours. So I would be remiss if I didn't give us all kind of the vote to say, let's go home. So if you want to stick around, we're happy to do that, but I think we're going to continue for a while. So.
Well, I'm just thinking from an attendance point of view, we don't have a lot of our committee members here tonight. Maybe we should hold off and take the rest.
Anybody opposed to taking a break?
Ryan,
Yes,
I think that's a great idea. I'm going to tell you, this is fabulous information. I would like to have about 1,200 community members here.
Exactly.
I
I need to hear this.
Yeah, you're right. So another idea, and Ryan, you're doing a marvelous job, and I can't thank you enough for doing this. So I don't want to come across like but it's just an idea. Every time we meet, at the very beginning of the meeting, we could do a 10-minute overview of a bill. Is that what you were thinking too?
When we
Just
go
a
to
brief-
when we go to each building for a board meeting, we should have a study session time where we walk around and receive a tour of the facility, and we make that part of the school program.
Exactly. Great line.
Great line.
And so when we have the when we have the boundary review meeting, we're going to have that at Summit View or at one of the other undesirable buildings.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We've moved a lot of the district trainings to Apple Valley,
Yeah.
some of you, which is more inconvenient for parking and all those things, but that's what those people deal with. But anyway, it's so well done, these things, how they were put together, that even after we're done with them, even if before each one you just did one for the rest of these meetings, I think they're informative. Especially the ones that are most needed.
You know what I'd like to suggest where we are right now is just the common themes that we've heard just with the facilities that we've talked about. Because one of the things, Mark, that you brought up that I think was excellent is that whole parking issue with staff. That's a real issue for autonomy because the staff park right there on the street. And if you had some black old parent or something, I mean, just from a security point of view, I mean, it's there for the picking. And I like your idea of being able to park the staff cars behind the building or in a secure location. That would be just a simple.
So my question is, if we adjourn now, when are we gonna get to this? We're on a tight time frame to be able to get our job done by October. I know that my presentation is short. I can share it quickly. I don't even have any pictures, so I forgot to take any. But, and we need this information so that we can make informed decisions as we start to consider where we're going with our time frame that we're on before October.
But we need more people here.
Yeah.
Are we gonna have more people next time?
Well, so let me back up and say, first of all, I think we achieved item number one, which is we need to get through our elementary schools. Because our first priority, our first task is identified by the school board is, let's get through the elementary boundary issue. So if we jump to the back of sheet number 2, these are our 2016, 2017 numbers. We're sitting on 2016, 2017 numbers right now. We're probably in that 60 or 70% of tally mark as it relates to our kindergarten classes coming in. But that's kind of the concept that I want to start to lay out is here's how many kids we have in our building. So the top half is grade. Second half then is the ICOS information that talks about how many classrooms we have, how many lab spaces. Keep in mind that the term lab in an elementary school means computer lab, and that the practice of learning how to type is what's essentially being taught. We're not talking, we're teaching the typing side of that, and we're teaching kind of the file saving and retrieval side. We're not necessarily teaching how to use it in class to do an internet search as part of a project.
Ryan, could this document be a working document and could we make changes? Because I know the ICOS, I brought that up at the last meeting, the ICOS information is not correct. And this information that you have here is leaving off all of our preschool and DLC sped classes.
Okay.
So those numbers are dramatically different as far as classroom numbers and maybe not as significantly different in most of the buildings for total student population.
So where in the district do we go to get?
We got it right here.
To get revised numbers?
I can give you the totals, not by school, but fourth grade, 397.
What are we counting? We're counting students?
At the far right, students by grade.
Okay.
397, 406, 397, 350, and 379. That adds up to, and then we have 34 self-contained students. That brings us to 1963, which is about 70 more kids than on the list.
So what is self-contained?
DLC.
Developmental Learning Center, so self-contained special ed.
We have those in some of our elementaries, but not all of them.
Are those the numbers that are downstairs on the board?
No, these are the numbers right now. No, those numbers, I wish I would have known you were.
That in
These are the last May, these are the May enrollment counts by the elementary.
they would be in the, they would be in the packet, once they're,
we do a monthly.
in the business meeting.
Yep.
At the last board meeting of the month. Okay. There's a series of enrollment reports where he's reading that from. And it breaks it down by building, by grade,
by classroom.
month by month, classroom, and that information with like the development and
ELC.
learning classrooms, they're in there,
They're listed as SC on self-contained.
yeah. Ryan, I'll show you what one of them looks like here, and I'll show you what one of them looks like here.
Well, let's get the numbers revised in any case. And then do we have concerns about actual number of classrooms?
The ICOS report was wrong.
Wrong, we know in regards to Cottonwood, and we're just concerned about being wrong in regards to the others.
I think it was, I don't have my packet, but I fixed it last time and adjusted it. I think there was, we were off a lot.
I'll just point out, this is where I got the numbers from. So. So that was an email on 6/22.
It was, sorry,
6/22, that's when I got that email. So.
Yeah.
Okay, regardless, item number 1 is we got through elementary schools. I think that's our priority, frankly. Let's understand the condition. Let's go ahead then and come back, and next time we'll go ahead and we'll do 2 schools. We'll do middle school and junior high. Okay, and then in a meeting beyond that, we'll do freshmen and high school. And I'll fill in all the other kind of ancillary goals. So, our homework. So first, our topic for our next meeting is, I've got Bill Horton, who's one of our local kind of planning consultants, will come in. I've asked Bill to give us kind of a 15-minute presentation on what he sees as the development of West Valley. I'm not asking him for specific projects, I'm not asking him for specific times or dates, but I want to just develop us as a group to have an understanding about where our community is growing. One of the elements that West Valley Citizens for Better Schools is really, really focused on is trying to come up with a better concept for our community. Frankly, one of the items that Nick identified earlier and Mike touched on about East Valley is East Valley is a community. It's not a part of the city of Yakima, it's a clear and distinct element from the city of Yakima. West Valley is different. West Valley is half city, half county. And so one of the elements that we have to do is develop a community sense, pride in our community. If that means yeses on votes, or that just means we all have more West Valley ran here, whatever it might be, that's what we need to start to develop. So that's the ideas that you can bring to the table from a citizen's perspective. Please do. We're open to every one of them. We're trying to figure out how to do that moving forward. Towards that end, August the 26th, I promise it'll be a very cool, very pleasant day. That's going to be our Citizens Committee Fun Run. Our Citizens for Better Schools is going to have a fun run. Okay, the concept right now is going to start at the park. It's a Saturday before school starts. And so we'll be getting more information out on that, but just something to stick on the calendar, something to come down. We're going to build that out over the long term to more of a community days event, something that again is West Valley centric. So Bill will be in next time. We're going to talk about 2 schools next time. Our homework continues to be go out and get the survey out to as many people as you can. And then last bit of homework is kind of this bottom column. I threw out some concepts, add some words you might like. What do we need to consider when we talk about elementary boundaries? How do we need to prioritize those? Is it a priority that I went to that school, my kids get to that school? Is it a priority that I get to be able to walk easily to that school? What are the priorities that we should consider as a community towards the relationship between our home location and where our kids go to school? So just start to think about that. Again, ask the community as you're out and about. Frankly, if you're absolutely willing, identify yourself as part of the facility planning committee. Okay? That's what we're here for. We're here to represent our community. We're here to be the eyes and ears on the ground.